ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. What we're going to see in my little part of this presentation is some things you're probably not going to see in the book, you won't see on the website, and there's some things that we found that were very, very interesting. Hopefully you'll find it interesting in a similar way. First up, this is how we received the glass plates in a typical condition. They were in those little grey boxes, and those ones were actually sorted and organised according to nationalities or some sort of appropriate grouping that the people who collected it, people like Max Jutritz and Ross Coulthard, when they collected these. However, they ran out of time, and gradually they didn't have time to actually organise and sort them, and they were just wrapped up in bubble wrap, and that's how we saw them when they arrived. We had people working on this. This is Pat. Pat's studying his PhD, so we had very highly qualified people. And we had a multiple process, and you're not going to see this in extreme detail, don't worry, get into interesting stuff. But what happened here is that Pat would actually clean the non-emulsion side. Now there's two sides to a glass plate or any piece of film. One is the actual carrier of the emulsion, and that emulsion is the chemical that actually reacts to light. So we didn't touch that side, we just cleaned the other side. We offered to do this, this was our idea, we offered to clean that non-emulsion side. And you can see the plates are getting clean here, they have a nice glossy shine on them. This is just an example. We just continually were washing these cloths, trying to wash up a century's worth of dirt and cigarette smoke and, well, chicken poop. And you'll see here again a close-up of just how clean that side got. The other side, again, we didn't touch. So there's still work of restoration can be done to these. People ask, and expect that we use some sort of careful handling systems, and we thought about this very carefully. We handled these glass plates without any gloves at all. And that might sound extremely disrespectful, but the reason for that was simply that we felt that if we used cotton gloves on some of these plates, and these plates were often broken, a little bit of cotton might snag on the plate, and which frisbee it off the table. So we just thought, no, that's not a good idea. We didn't even want to wear rubber gloves because we'd lose the feel and the contact onto the plate itself. But that's my finger with a little bit of glass shard, which happened occasionally, just the way it happens. And we had some more severe injuries occasionally. The glass plates were broken, and occasionally we got a little cut or two. By the way, every glass plate was handled by myself, personally. So Pat would do the cleaning, I would take that glass plate, and I was the only one who would do it, and I would put that on the scanner. The reason being, if any mishap happened, who would I blame? I would have been pretty upset. I would have kicked some serious butt, and I thought, well, might as well just keep my own if something does happen. But I'm pleased to say no mishaps happened. But sometimes the plates were not just dirty, but there was other kinds of damage and problems with them. In this case here, there's actually 3 glass plates stuck together. And they're joined, you can see a little bit of gum at the side here. We had a really close look at this one. We thought about it very carefully before we did anything. In this case, we decided, let's have a go and take these apart. There's just only a bit of gum on 2 corners, so we had a go at it. Pulled them apart, you can see the 3 plates here. They've just been able to take one part out of it, and we laid them down. You can see there's 3 images here, 3 different soldiers from 3 different countries. Unfortunately, the Australian at the far side, you can see clearly he's Australian, and that's the sort of thing we were watching out for. You can see he's the most damaged. That's because his plate's emulsion was facing out to the weather and copped some insult. First plate, an Englishman. I do not know where this gentleman's from, and the Australian. And that's what we got off him. Sometimes the plates were stuck together and we couldn't take them apart. I don't know what's there. We did scan this, but I will point out to you in the very middle of the bottom plate, you'll see a white area. There's nothing there. That information is gone. The emulsion has now worn away, it's been damaged, it's lost to the dust of time. We do not know what's underneath that, and we saw a lot of that. We were actually told not to scan the actual fragments. I kid you not, we were actually given a bag full of glass shards, these. And we were specifically directed not to actually digitise these. And I thought, we will. And we found some really wonderful things. There was a lovely, well, let's just have a look. Not too many though, frankly. Mainly it's a sad story, but we did find 1 or 2 good things. So we cleaned these, and in this case we laid the glass directly onto our scanners, which we normally kept them supported, but because these were fragments, we had to lay them down. That's just one of me proof that I actually did work on the job. And this is a kind of indication of what we had to go through. The plates were always put onto a soft tissue, And after a while, these tissues were discarded as they became filthier and filthier. We just kept cycling through lots and lots of tissues. But we cleaned each one of these little fragments as well. Again, let me be emphatic. Oh, by the way, these are in addition to the 3,993 scans that we did. These were not actual regarded as scans. These are just additional work. We found little fragments, as I say. You can kind of possibly maybe almost see a man's face here. We found another piece he joined up. Okay. Someone is here, and we went through, kept going, and sometimes we had lucky finds, as I say. This one gets a bit better, but sometimes they were not so lucky. I don't know who that soldier is. There was no missing piece to fit into that puzzle. Gone. Sad. But then one day, after we finished scanning, we were looking at all the images again, and coincidentally, I'd laid them out on the scanner, and quite accidentally, I put these 4 pieces together, close to each other. This gentleman here is Louis Thuillier. Just in the pile of rubbish that was there. And what's going on in this picture, I can only presume it's some sort of ID photograph. It's just got a lad holding a white cloth behind him, and it's just going to be trimmed out. Now, by the way, in fact, if you don't realise this, the glass plates themselves were a particular size, 5 by 4 inches or thereabouts. And it's a size that's about so big, and the reason for that is you can lay that on a piece of paper, shine some light through it, no enlarging required, and you get a piece of paper that size, a contact print. Sometimes we saw things that we thought were just plain beautiful beyond description, and this is one of them. This is a shard, or just a fragment of one plate, and in itself it just looks beautiful. This is the negative. It's a photograph, not a scan, it's a photograph of one of us holding the actual glass shard itself. It's very, very evocative, and that goes to the background, who is very obviously Australian. It's just, I don't know, this one particularly amused me. We'd actually put this forward to Ross to use as a cover, but Ross, with good strategy, used another image. But we just love this as this looks right now. I'll look at a couple of these. These are just photographs of the place, these are not the scans. That's 100-year-old photographs, film dying. You can clearly see the glass, and by the way, in this one you can see the edge of the glass here. Now, just as a little aside, what we realised before me, that people actually collected this, realised that these were not proper photographic glass plates in some cases. They did actually buy real ones, the Thuilliers did, but sometimes they used window glass, and this is what it is. So Louis Thuillier actually coated the emulsion on himself after cutting the glass up into appropriately sized pieces to fit into his camera. I do not know whether he was trying to save a franc, or was he couldn't get supplies, perhaps a bit of both. But there's information here. That's off one of those 2 plates, and that's off the other one. Oh, incidentally, in case you're not aware, these were the diggers. No, not Australian soldiers. These are the chaps that actually did the civil works, such as digging trenches and other things like that. This is a curious thing. This is a plain, simple image. There's nothing special about this image as I'm showing you here. This is me holding a glass plate. And you can see I'm holding it between 2 fingers. That was one of the rules we decided very early in the piece, along with no gloves. Instead of holding like this, we felt if we used 2 hands, there's a danger as we're carrying it, the 2 hands might twist from one to the other. That would put a torsion on the glass plate and possibly crack it. So our rule was all glass plates are held by 2 fingers only, and that was my rule and I kept it. So I'm holding a glass plate between my fingers there. So what's so special about this? Well, we discovered, as we were putting them on the scanner, we actually saw something else. And I'm going to bounce back and forward a little bit. Now, you'll see there's something going on here. I'll go back now. Now, do you see? You're seeing it. You see she's got her arm resting on some sort of stand. Ooh, I've almost got one here now. On some sort of stand to keep herself stable. Okay? Well, you'll still see that. There's her arm still there. What's behind her? Someone. 3 soldiers. I've got a few. One's a priest, actually. The chaplain with a pipe, I think. Unfortunately, I have to say this, but I noticed this on and on and on, and I thought, okay, fine, well, that's some sort of ghosting effect from one plate to the next, which kind of obviously would be, and we call them ghosts. Well, unfortunately, we realised that too late in the piece, and we didn't document this very well, because we didn't scan those ghosts. We never saw that image. This is a hidden, lost image. So the plate's gone.
I was told to ask Otto a question here. Otto, does that mean that the plates were used twice?
We considered that. Thanks for asking. We considered where these plates were used, and I still suspect it, but with decreasing feeling. It's possible, perhaps, that the emulsion was taken off and left some sort of chemical residue on one side or the other. But we're thinking increasing that probably what has happened is the two emulsions were one on top of the other, and there's some sort of transference of chemistry between them, leaving this information behind. So maybe they were reused. I told you, used window glass. So if he's trying to save some money here, and you'll see this in a moment. Louis didn't throw away many of these plates. There were very, very many that we didn't get to see. I'll describe that in a moment. Same thing. This is a similar sort of thing. I'll bounce back and forth only a little bit. And I'll go back again. See the lag? This is a photograph, by the way, and in the right light you actually get to see the photograph sort of turns a little bit positive, but someone else has appeared. I don't know. I can't say who that is. But you can see that even that's just on the table, laid out with another plate in pretty atrocious condition. And there's even these. We actually jokingly, but sort of seriously said, in some cases the plates were so thin with exposure, Louis did not have a light meter, and his chemistry was all over the place. Sometimes these plates were so thin in density of information that it was like scanning window glass. And we got something out of this. I'm sorry, I don't have the finished scan handy. But that's another example of a ghost on an almost clear plate. Along the way, as we were going through all these plates and all these wrappers, we found Louis' signature. I don't know why he signed this, but there it is. This is an indication of work in progress, but there's something interesting about this apart from that. You'll see the plates on your right side, they're still dirty. There's still dirt on the actual glass non-emulsion side. That's yet to be cleaned. The interesting thing with this one is the plate in the very middle. It's actually an unusual size. So they work with different sized plates. I don't know why. Again, maybe saving a little bit of money, or there was some other reason. The camera they used was probably a half plate camera. A full plate camera is 8 inches by 10 inches. It is in inches. A half plate camera is literally half of that, and 5 by 4, which is most of these images, are quarter plate images. So we got a few that were full half plate in size. In particular this one. There's a few interesting things about this one. This is a half plate image, and some of you might have recognised this already from the book and possibly other places. This is a photograph of Armistices Day, literally. This is 11th of November 1918. I'm not going to go into the history of that, I'm not a historian. But we do know that. There's something very interesting about this plate that some of you might have started to notice, but very few people have actually realised what's going on here. We did, because we're a scanning business, so we knew that this is wrong immediately. Can anyone see what's strange and different about this plate? You can say. I'll give you a clue. We did 3,993 glass plate negatives. Negatives. I heard someone say it down here. This is not a negative. And I don't know the chemistry used. It's probably not super secret. It's probably very doable. But this is a glass plate positive. It's a slide, like a photographic slide. You hold up to the light, you will see it like that. This is a photograph, not a scan.
Sometimes that happened.
This was deliberately done. There was two like this. Both the Armistices Day photographs were deliberately made into positives. And one of the clues here, I'm suspecting some sort of emulsion transfer process. If you notice the top of the image, there's a little bit of folding down. You can see the emulsion sort of flopped over itself. And that's indication that probably this came from another piece of glass and was transferred to this piece of glass as part of a chemical system. I suspect this might have been on display in the Thuillier's studio, perhaps with the backlight, and people could actually see it as a positive. And he played around with different sorts of technologies to actually create positives in a similar sort of way. That's myself during the Channel 7 filming us, and that's Ramisha. She's quite important. She's the person who actually did all the post-production to every image that you see. I've just proudly said that I was the person who handled every plate. Ramisha is the person who did the post-production on every plate. And she did an absolutely brilliant job. That's me mugging it for the TV, the camera in my face, and one of the Channel 7 crew. And this is again how we receive the condition of some of these plates. Now we just stacked up one on top of the other. This is how they were stored in the crates at Thuillier's. Just one on top of the other, 1, 2, so on. Well, this one's interesting because we had a sense that there's someone in here. It felt a bit like Michelangelo. There's to paraphrase him, there's an Aussie in here and I will set him free. You can't see it yet, but we saw a little bit of a hint of something. But look at the condition of this. And this is one, I told you we cleaned the emulsion side only. Sorry, the non-emulsion side. In this case, we cleaned both sides a little bit. And we couldn't use water because that would soften the emulsion. Notice the bottom corner's got a little chip on it. That's important because that will help identify this image as we're going forward on this one. Notice the chicken poop at the top. Notice how it's caked with mud that's really set. We just rubbed it off gently. Very gently. Just rubbed it off with tissues, just pulled it off, used it, and so on. Just rubbed it and cleaned it until we got something out of it. We found this one. Oscans found this particular image, and we decided to give him a name. He's the last lost digger. The reason is it's the very last. We put this aside. This is the very last scan that we did at the end of the project. Once we've done everything, once we've done all the rescans, we pulled this one out and said, right, now it's his turn. And that was it. That was the end of our project. But there's still more to the story. Beautiful, man. It's really beautiful. And notice the nick in the corner. I told you, keep an eye out for that. That just shows that piece of rubbish was recovered. And there's someone in there. And no, I don't know who he is. I have no idea. That's me holding the last one. Everything's boxed up, ready to go back to Channel 7, all set to go, and I just want to hold that up and prove that this was the last one we did. Ramesh also helping to write the boxes. Okay, why is this one at the end and not start? Well, this is when we actually delivered all the work back to Channel 7, and then we saw, hadn't realised this, but then we saw the actual crates that came from France. This is Thuillier plates were found in these literal crates. You've seen these images already, but these are my photographs. There's the grey boxes we talked about again, and you'll see the paper and the plate packing that would have been used way back then. And that's our work in the background there. Now, that's all the story for our scanning, what we did, the technical side of it. I could talk all day about it, but I'll just keep it interesting. I thought I'd add something else to this. I thought I'd talk about Antoinette Thuillier. As you can see, Ramisha is a woman. You probably noticed that. And I'm not. And we had arguments as to who did the photography. Well, we sort of stood our grounds on gender, and Ramisha insisted that Antoinette did the photography, and I said no, it was Louis, of course, because he's a man, he can do it better, you know. Well, I thought about this a lot, and I think they both did, but I think there's also some quite clearly identifiable images where Antoinette did her bit rather than Louis. She had a talent for getting photographs. That's little Robbie. We'll see more of him later another time. Who's photographing this? It's a lovely woman who's saying, "Monsieur, please." Don't you love these guys? Yeah? They're beautiful boys. You may ask a question.
Do you think where boys are smiling, she took pictures?
Yes, I do. I think where the boys are smiling, I think Antoinette took the pictures. I'm sorry, I might not have made that clear, but to me, yes. These are all images that, in my judgment, I'm very confident that Antoinette did the effort, and I think she did a really good job. Actually, you have a close look at every one of these guys,
and everyone has got a bit of a smirk on their face, and they're all having a really good time. And I think Antoinette controlling, 1.5 men, and gentlemen, please, she's probably having a good time as well, just to keep it under control. And that's all I've got for my part. Thanks very much for your attention.
Otto Mellar.